Everyone, please help me welcome Mari Collins Harris to the Mob Mentality podcast. So, today we are going to talk about all things mom life, teaching kids a skill that I think way too many children do not have, which is financial skills, and talk about the app that you and your husband developed together, which is called Ketshop. So, welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be on.
This is going to be fun today. This is a topic that I don't think enough parents are actually teaching their kids or that we talk about.
Yeah, I think financial responsibility is one of those things where, maybe you give your kids a couple coins here and there and you teach them like about paper money, but the way we as adults are using money is changing and we haven't really updated the way we educate our kids. So I think it's important to start showing kids like how to manage money in a virtual world as well as in a physical world.
That is so modern and up to date. So this is going to be fun. Can only imagine. Like they should be really good at this with all the technology, better than we are, which
Yeah.
probably means they're like way better shoppers than we are too. It can spend money really easily.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more money spent isn't the best shopper in my mind. Like, get the best deals. That's a good shopper.
Yeah, that's so fun. That's mom right there. Mom mentality for sure. So
For
if
sure.
you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself. What does life look like for you?
Yeah. So, I am the mother of three kids. My youngest is 4, and then I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. So it's very noisy and chaotic in my home. And my husband and I started our app Ketshop together in around 2020, and we've been working on it as a team. I'm kind of the creative lead. I call myself the driving wheel, and he's the motor. So I have the vision, he makes it happen.
Oh, that's fun. So have y'all always done business together, or is this something that's a new venture for
No,
you both?
we- we've dabbled in a few things, but I think he's kind of a serial entrepreneur, and I'm kind of an idea person. So, um, yeah, this is kind of our first real big venture together,
That's
but it's fun
fun.
and exciting.
I love something that you actually have in your bio that whenever I was, doing some prep for this, you were like, I've always been really successful, very driven as far as professionally. I guess that goes for you.
Mhm.
And then you became a mom and you're like, this is one of the most humbling experiences of all. That
It
caught
really
my
was.
attention. So can you tell me
Yeah.
about that? Like, how did that shift happen for you?
Well, I feel like through my life up until motherhood, it was like if I wanted good grades, I'd study, I'd get them. If I wanted to get better at a sport, I'd practice, I'd get better. If I wanted to, raise money, I'd work hard, I'd raise money. It's like there's a goal and I could work towards it and then eventually reach it. And that came relatively easy to me. So when I was pregnant and like getting ready to have a baby, I was like, okay, I'm going to be the best mom. I'm going to do like no screens, no sugar, like I'm going to teach my baby to lift his head up. He's going to be like off to Harvard by the time he's 4, just
Yeah.
like very very naive because I hadn't spent a lot of time around kids before actually having one of my own. And I realized that as much as we can try to control our own path, we cannot control the path of another little human who is already making, their own choices from the moment they're born. And so,
Hmm.
you know, feeding a baby is not your choice. It's like lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. It's the same. You can like
Yeah.
try to breastfeed a baby, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. You can't force a baby to sleep. You can't force a baby to like potty train. You have to learn the tricks of the trade and like help them learn to do it. So it was a very humbling experience to figure out that I couldn't just like white knuckle it and make motherhood perfect.
Did that help you going into the second one?
I had much lower expectations, but I feel like I'm still humbled every day. I have 3 kids and I still expect to be able to control a path for them and I can't. And I
Hmm.
learn that every day. I guess I'm a little dense in that way because I keep making that same mistake of like, oh, I'll just tell them to make their beds and then they'll do it. It's like, no, it's, you know, that's not worked ever before and it's not going to work now. You got to find a different way.
Yeah, I love
Still
that.
on that journey.
It is. It's a continual journey, and I feel like whether you are an entrepreneur, if you are a mom and an entrepreneur, for sure, that it is just a constant process and a learning curve. I have very
Hmm.
similar experience of becoming a first time mom, not around a lot of kids. And
Yeah.
then my son came along and we want to be perfect. We want to do everything right. And then there's all these professionals and others' input of how it's supposed to go. And then come to find out I had an autistic child. That's like, okay, no wonder none of these things were working and I wasn't such a bad mom, but
Yeah.
it was very humbling. So I can totally
Yeah.
relate to that.
Well, and it's easy to go down that Google spiral too. It's like you go look for help, you look for advice, and it's not like one wise woman from your village telling you how it is. It's like a million different like quasi experts mixed with quacks who are just telling you no matter what you're doing it wrong. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough.
It is tough. Being a mom, I feel like is one of the most rewarding and the most challenging job out there. Like when I was in
Mhm.
corporate America, I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought that was hard. And I'm like, now just being with my kids, I'm like, they are teaching me things all the time. And I have to work on managing my emotions and how I respond way more than I did with people cussing at me every day.
Oh, yeah. Well, that doesn't sound like a great corporate America, but hopefully you'll never get
Uh,
there with your kids, right?
let's hope not. We're gonna do everything we can to control that one. So let's just even like dive into talking about Ketshop. So would you
Yeah.
mind just explaining what that is, and then what led you to discover that there was a need for this?
Yeah. I'll start with your second question first.
Okay.
Uh, the need for ketchup arose because we were seeing it in our own family. It started when my kids started getting old enough to want the things that their friends had. So, like a Lego set or um, like a robotic system, whatever it was. Like, I want this, I want that, I want this. And anyone who's gone to like a Walmart or a Target or somewhere like that with their kid and walk down the toy aisle, it's like crazy. Kids trying to grab stuff, kids like begging, and you go into no mode. And I hate being in no mode. I was just like, no, it's too expensive. No, it's poorly made. No, 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 no. And so I didn't want to teach my kids that if they bug me enough, either I'll say yes or I'll blow up at them because that's kind of where it was. It was like I'd say no, they'd bug me, and then either like I'd cave in and let them have what they wanted, or I'd get mad and like lose my cool. So I was like, what's a way that I could say yes, I can feel good about it, and they can feel good about it too. And so the conditions for that were, the product has to be the right thing. I'm not going to buy like a gun or, something inappropriate for my child. And I also want them to understand the value of money. So I want them to be contributing towards that item as well, instead of just, the bank of mom is always there.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's okay with me that they have it and they can afford it, then I need to be able to let them do it. So my son was working on raising money for a toy, and then we went online to try and buy it, and I was like, okay, you like made it. This is awesome. And we go on Amazon, and it's like there's 100,000 RC cars, and each one looks exactly like the other one. It's really hard for kids to understand like why can't they afford it, because it's like one click and you can buy it. Who cares that I only have $25 and this is 100? Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. Why can't I buy it? So I looked for something that would help show my child like, okay, here's your goal and you've worked your way up, here's what you can afford. And there's nothing like that out there. Um at least for like a younger age set.
Mm-hmm.
So we built it. Ketshop is an app where it's like a child-led shopping app, but it's collaborative with the parent because parents can always veto any purchase before it's final. So you're not going to have like a surprise pony showing up in your front door. Um, and your kid has to have saved enough money in order to buy it for themselves. So it's teaching those like financial responsibility and like in a sense budgeting um, early lessons, as well as like creating a more cohesive home environment because you aren't having to say no all the time. It's a yeah, once you earn the money, you can totally buy that crazy toy you want.
Yeah. So how does it work? How is it more child and parent driven?
Um, so the way it works is a kid has a shop, which is basically like an assortment of things they might be interested in. And
Okay.
this can be physical items like a new bike or a skateboard, or it can be like a trip to the ice cream shop with your best friend. It can be a party. It can be anything. You can
Fun.
create your own items, whatever you want. And then the child and parent can both curate that list and set a price on things. Obviously, if you're buying something that's online, the price is already set. And the parent can send virtual money to the child through the app. So it's like, oh, you know, mowed the lawn. Here's $5. Helped grandpa with his chores. Here's $10. And so as the child makes more and more money, they can see which items they can afford. And if they can't afford something but really want it, they can set a goal for themselves. And so being able to see that line get closer and closer to like, yes, you can achieve your goal. So then once they decide they're going to buy something, they check out, which is essentially asking mom and dad to buy it for them. And so at that point, money is removed from their account, and then the parent has the choice to say, yes, you can buy it, or and I will check out for you, or no, this is not appropriate, and the money goes back to the kid.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
What have you discovered from this, like being able to implement this in your own family?
Oh my gosh, so many lessons. Um, a lot of them were at first I was a little disheartened because it had kind of the opposite effect where all of a sudden it was like a lot of little tchotchkes coming into the house. It was like, oh man, I just enabled my kid to like add more chaos to our home. But honestly, it didn't last very long. Like within a couple purchases, it was like a toy would break or get lost or they'd lose interest. And then you would see the kids start doing that mental accounting like, "Oh man, I spent like $14 on this thing and it's like broken already." I'm like, well, yeah, like you want to talk about it? What else could you have
Yeah.
done with that money? And so it kind of opened up the opportunity to have those conversations where you talk about the value of things. You talk about like a cost benefit analysis. And I started seeing my kids making more conscious decisions about how they spent their money, saving up more instead of thinking I have $5, what can I get for $5? It's I have $5, which brings me closer to my goal of a new bike. Um,
Yeah.
and so um, yeah, it's really helped my children start like thinking about money as a tool rather than as something that they can use to exchange immediately. Yeah, that's
But
been huge.
that's awesome. I love that it's like being able to open up even room for this conversation of realizing it's like, okay, yeah, this thing broke. And is this, how do you feel about that? That you spent so
Yeah.
much time and energy in order to get this, and then now like we don't have it anymore. Was this something that you were taught growing up? Like, were you taught lessons about money, or was that something you didn't really get into until adulthood?
Um, I feel like I was given a certain amount of autonomy at a relatively young age. My parents would pay me for chores and stuff. And I had like a shoebox full of coins that I would like dig around in to buy candy, but we didn't really have those conversations about like what do I want to use my money for? It was more like petty spending money, which I think is like the mindset most people have with their kids.
Hmm.
Like you're small, you have small expenses. I'll take care of all the big stuff. Like we'll buy you things because you're a child. But it's been really cool. Like I've bought fewer things for my kids in the last couple of years than before, because my children are buying them for themselves, and it makes them value them differently, you know?
Yeah.
Those toys that they pay money for, they clean them up, they put them away. The toys that I buy for them, they get stepped on, left out in the grass, pieces get lost. It doesn't carry the same value. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we've switched to like, for birthdays and Christmas and stuff, we buy our kids presents. But if we're out and about and my child wants something, I don't buy them anything anymore. It's like, well, do you have the money?
Yeah.
Obviously, like school clothes and stuff we buy, but if they
Right.
lose them, they have to replace them themselves.
That's really cool. Like they're teaching a whole different level of, I feel like, skill set and responsibility. Sorry, I'm moving around a lot. Anybody that's watching on
Yeah,
here, like
I can
I
hear
had,
some little
I
people
had a
in there.
little one sneak in on me. So hold on one second. This
Uh-huh.
is real mom life as we talk about it right
It
now.
really is.
Yep. I'm like, that's what we do around here. I talk about keeping it authentic, and that's what we have. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, shut them out. Yep. I'm like, that's what it is.
It is.
Sorry,
You gotta get
everyone.
that balance.
Yep. I'm like, we had one sneak in. He's pulled me all over the place. Anybody on video? So, but this is so important because even as we're looking at, I feel like all the issues going on with little ones nowadays, from just being completely unhealthy to not being taught in school, like real life skill sets. And
Mhm.
I feel like money is a big one that kids are taught. Oh, let's have these ridiculous ways to do math problems now, which don't even make any sense to me.
Yeah,
But
me neither.
when we look at, okay, how do you manage money? That's something that kids, and I know that I feel like we should have even been taught growing up in school, that is going to have an actual benefit on your life and how you function.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's ridiculous that we don't learn these things in like formal institutions.
Hmm.
And, nowadays there are more programs out there for older kids, though. It tends like there's prepaid debit cards and, like little credit cards. But if you have a young child, like having them have a credit card that they could lose, or they could like shop independently on Amazon, like I don't want my kid to see all the things that Amazon sells. I would never let my kid loose on there, because it's like the first
Yeah.
thing they search is like guns or butt stuff, or
Yeah,
who
yeah,
knows.
it's true.
But it's like
Yep.
it's a wild world out there, and I'm not ready for my 8-year-old to be using a credit card to buy things online. So we're kind of that stopgap between like young kids who are completely dependent and older kids who are a little more out in the world. But we're trying to help the children who are in that middle ground and kind of still dependent on mom and dad, but like
Mhm.
learning to navigate the world themselves.
One of the things that you said could be added into the shop, which I think is so important and neglected, is that time or activities can actually
Hmm.
be a reward and something that you invest your money in. Like, have you found your kids spend their money on anything like that with you all?
Yeah, yeah. We've had a couple pizza parties sponsored by the kids, which was really fun. Um we also have some family vacations that are up there, and it's not, obviously a family vacation for a family of 5 is like thousands of dollars, which, our kids are
Yeah.
never going to make. But, we ask them to put in a portion of that, such that it's costly for them the same way it's costly for us, on a smaller scale. But,
Hmm.
if our child is saving up $200, like they can buy one of their airline tickets. And it's like, that's amazing. Or they can, you know,
Yeah.
pay for a dinner or something like that. Like it might be just a small fraction of the larger cost, but showing them that these things don't come for free. Like hotels don't just open their doors for free, and you can't just walk onto an uh, airplane without paying for it. So giving them like a little taste of the fact that like the good things in life you have to sacrifice for, um,
Yeah.
is really impactful. And so far, the highest value experience we've done is like a pizza party, which, is a lot for a kid to sponsor for themselves.
That
But it was
is.
great. Yeah.
I just love the fact of like being able to actually spend money on time and experiences other than just stuff. And
Yeah.
there's just a never-ending supply of stuff. And I mean, if you have a 6 and an 8-year-old that is like, "I wanna have a pizza party for my family," that's pretty significant.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it's funny, I felt like it was a little like crack that we hadn't really explored. And our kids would be like, "Oh, mom and dad, I want to do a mommy daddy date with you. Let's go to the movies and get dinner and get popcorn, and then we'll do this." And it was like, I see. Mommy daddy date means we pay for you to do all this fun stuff, which, does sound great. And I want to spend time with you. But
Mhm,
like, in this family where we are very interested in making sure our kids like understand the value of the things that we provide for them, I also want them to understand that, like, you know we can go for a walk for free, we can, go to the park for free, but if we want to do these more expensive things, that takes money.
mhm. Yeah, that's so great. I love that. Why do you feel like so even, like, when you developed this, it's like, why and even now, like, why do you feel like it's so important to be able to make this resource available to I mean, to others? Because this is something that you coulda completely did within your own household.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is we started because I wanted to reduce the stress in our own home. I think the financial literacy side of things is important, but it's something that I thought about as kind of a byproduct of the original problem. And the original problem was like this conflict that comes in parenthood and seems inherent in being a modern parent, where your child's being advertised to. They're being um seduced by the new toys that their friends have, and they always want something from you. And I, I'm a no mom, and I don't want to be the no mom. And so
Mhm,
I hated having to be like the mean guy, and it was conflict, it was like fighting, and I wanted to find a way to say yes. And I think I've seen that in a lot of other households where people are overwhelmed with the amount of stuff in their house, where
oh, yeah.
and kids, like, either the kid gets everything they want and the parent worries about spoiling them. Like, that's a terrible feeling. You're trying to make your kid happy, but you're doing something that feels unhealthy for them. Like, it stinks. And then there's also like, are you being the best parent you can be? And
Mhm.
what is the best parent? Like, is it giving them the thing or not giving them the thing? This way, it's kind of a little bit of both. You can give them the thing, but they are getting it for themselves.
It reminds me of something that is relatively new to me is hearing about the young Sephora girls right now, and I was like,
Mhm.
"I didn't even know this was a thing." And then it's like all these young girls, I mean, 8, 10 years old that are so into Sephora and spending all this crazy amount of money on cosmetics, which even to adulthood, I still struggle with that. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
really like these things, but this is ridiculous how much this stuff costs."
yeah,
And for young girls, like I can only my daughter's only 12 months, but I can just imagine like she would be such the girly girl and want all the things. And it'd be like, how are you gonna explain to her that it's like this lip gloss is $25
yeah.
and you want
And
five?
like, yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, if your kid is, either getting an allowance or being paid for chores, they're feeling like the price of that lip gloss. And it might be like your kid might be a fancy kid who wants to have the $25 lip glosses, and that makes sense for her. And,
Hmm.
maybe she's going to grow up into a fancy adult who is like wearing fur coats in her Lamborghini, and great for her. But it's a way to figure it out before they're 18 and they put a
Yep.
down payment on a car and realize, like, oh, I can't afford the monthly payments on this, or
Yes.
like it's helping them make those mistakes early and feeling that buyer's remorse when they do buy an expensive thing and they're like, oh, this is exactly like the drugstore brand except like
Yep.
shinier packaging.
Yeah.
um and so letting them learn those lessons before the stakes get too high. Like, it sucks to see your kid like unhappy with a purchase or sad because something broke. But I'd much rather see that than see my adult child in like deep, deep debt or
Hmm.
getting into financial trouble down the line.
Yep. The one thing that I feel like I can totally relate to that you said is just like being the no mom. And it's like we have so much responsibility on us as parents. Like we want to teach them right for wrong. We want to provide them with all of the best
Hmm.
things. And I think that's also where this parental burnout comes into such a play. Is like we constantly feel like
Yeah,
we have to work and provide and do all these things for our kids. Well,
for
what if
sure.
we actually take some of that stress off of ourselves, just like being able to push power to them to make their own little financial purchases? It does take a little bit of that pressure off of like, I
It
have to be
does.
the one to do it all the time. Like, what are you going to do to
Yeah.
help mommy in order to get it?
Yeah. I once made like a mental flow chart of what it takes to make a decision. And it was like, okay, first of all, I have to think like, do I even want my kid to own this thing? Yes or no? Like, do I think the price is right? Do I have the money right now? Was my kid good today? Were they nice yesterday? Have I had my coffee yet? Like, do we have time to wait in line? It was like this whole big math equation that happens in a second or several seconds, and like that's a mental load that you have to carry. And being able
Hmm.
to offload that and say like, okay, I can't take everything off, but I can say like, yes, this is appropriate. The rest of it is up to you. Like if you think that price is appropriate, I don't, but that's your money. You make the
Hmm.
choice.
Yep.
Um, are you willing to wait 6 weeks for it to ship? That's up to you. Like that's not on me anymore. And so being able to like offload that mental like mental work that you have to do with every single one of those teeny tiny decisions really adds up, and it
It
can
does.
help reduce stress a lot just by like involving your child in making those decisions.
I like that so much. There's constant decision fatigue. And it's like we have enough decision fatigue on like what we have to control when it comes to our own health and our work and and our kids on the things that
Yeah,
really matter. And it's like
yeah,
this is
the
one of
big
those things.
stuff.
Yeah. I like this a lot. So, what do you feel like even are some like other everyday activities that you even implement in your own home to just help relieve even some of that decision fatigue and to push more responsibility to them that you're like, this could help other moms.
Yeah. Um, we have dabbled in lists. I feel like lists always work for a little while until they don't. But we try and keep them relatively short. So a lot of like our bedtime rules, we only have three. It's like our bedtime rules are feet on the bed, quiet voices, kiss and hug from someone you love. And so within that, it's like if they want to sit in their bed and like whisper to each other, fine with me. I prefer they go to sleep, but as long as it's quiet and like not my problem, as long as I don't have to get involved, that's fine. And so, like, not saying it has to be quiet, you have to go to bed, like, shut your eyes. It it makes it a little easier because then it's like you're putting in boundaries where it's like you're not like controlling them, but you're also not just saying like, you guys figure it out. I don't care if you're tired tomorrow. So,
Mhm.
starting to put like very loose lists in place. Like we have our dinner time list, which is like you have to sit in your chair, or you have to use a fork and a spoon and a knife and a napkin. And then you can't have more food until you finish what you have. You don't have to finish what you have. I'm never going to force you to eat, but like I made a pie and I'm going to eat it tonight. So I hope you can join me.
That's fun. How have you done this in your even your own life? I love this as like little
Oh,
short boundaries and
gosh.
rules.
That's a good question. I guess it's more like the things that I need that I've learned that I need in my own life in order to stay sane. And like that is usually something like I need to exercise daily or at least like, get outside, take a walk, something like that.
Mhm.
Um I need to make something. Like maybe not every day, but I think every human is creative. I like as a child identified as a very creative person, but now it's like I think everyone's creative. So whether it's like making food or like doing a drawing or, redesigning a bathroom, like I got to make something. That's part of my mental health. Um, and then like connection with people. Um, Making sure that like I check in with my kids, at least like making eye contact, giving a cuddle, like really seeing each other for
Mhm.
even like 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long time, but just
Yeah.
like calming down all the things that I have to do and having that like, hey, how are we doing today?
Hmm. That's so nice. And those things right there keep you centered. Like they
Yeah.
help you take care of your health. I like that. It's like you hit on like these basic needs that I think we all have, but we think and feel like they have to be so big.
Mm.
And it's like 5 minutes of, looking at each kid in the eye and saying, hey, like, where are we at? Are we good?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
ask them, you're like, that's reasonable. But then, like, why is it so hard to do?
Oh my gosh. And especially like when the tension is high, like if you're trying to get out of the house for school or like trying to get kids down for bed. I've been one of the tricks I've been trying to do with my youngest is like when I'm stressed out and he's stressed out and we're kind of like, like I just need you to brush your teeth, like come here and hold still instead of like trying to reason with him and talk him into it, which like just totally shuts him down. He's like, no. I've been doing a little, I'll like hold his hand and I'll like trace my finger around his hand and sing a little song to him. And it's like, I learned it from an Instagram video and it was like magic. It's like around, around the teddy bear goes around, around the garden, around the teddy bear goes hop, skip, jump. And then I give him a little kiss. And so I'll do that maybe once or twice, but it like calms his body. It's like a gentle touch and a moment of connection.
Hmm.
And like, even since I've learned it, I've had to remind myself because I haven't learned it to be my first nature yet. And so I'm like, oh yeah, like trying to convince him to do this isn't working. Like what he needs is to
Yes.
feel seen and heard and loved. And so yeah, I'm trying to be better at seeing and hearing and loving.
I think that's every mom. We all go through that. And it's like when they're worked up and then we get worked up, it's not doing any of us any good.
Mhm.
And having a 3-year-old that is autistic and has some major meltdowns, and so we have some moments. I know that it's like it is a process and it's continually like learning and tapping into that, and just even recognizing in yourself. It's like, all right, Mari, like I'm getting all worked up here. Like what's going
Yeah.
on? Like we need to dial it down, and like having that own self-talk and awareness so that way you can actually meet the needs of your kid too. That's really
Yeah.
cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that little connection, that mind body connection piece. That's so cool. So if you wouldn't mind telling us like where can we find the app? I know I have the website in the description. Like is that the best spot? Where can people connect with you to find out more?
Yeah, that is the best spot.
Okay.
You can use the web app on your computer, or you can download the app and use it on your phone. Our website is Ketshop, KETSHOP.com. And then we're also on the Google Play and Apple Store.
Fun.
But if you go to our website, you can kind of check it out and learn a little bit more, some tricks of the trade and also download it from there.
Fun. Is there anything that y'all are looking at adding to the app that you've discovered?
Oh
Maybe.
gosh, I feel like we've we've added so many things that I haven't even talked about here. Like you can donate to charities and you can set recurring allowances and we have a lot going on. So at this point we're looking for feedback honestly from our users to find out like what do they want to see? Which items are they using the most? Like we have a wish list and like we see a lot of people using it for Christmas, but is that something we need to offer year round?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's at this point we're kind of going through and trying to figure out like where to put our resources.
That's fun. So everybody heard permission to give feedback
Yes,
and they can
please.
Is it directly like, is there a place in the app that people can leave feedback on? Was
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
Or you can email hi@ketshop.com. That's our like catch-all email. But I look at all of those. So if you have suggestions or you love it, let me know, please.
yes, thank you. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I think you're doing something really amazing, and I know definitely when my kids get to a point where it's a skill that I want to be able to teach them, and I love that there's various rewards and ways to be able to set that up. So we'll be using it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. This was so much fun chatting with you.
Yes, it's been great. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.